Hello, Michael Swain here after Kansas football's 23-17 loss to Illinois on the road. You guys are going to join me as I walk out of the stadium here. Wow, a lot of thoughts I think we can get into here. First and foremost, disappointing result for Kansas. I think that is the most clear thing here. This is a team that I think everyone had very high expectations for. The players talked about it themselves, right? Competing for a Big 12 title, college football playoff, right? All these things were talked about in the preseason, by me included. And KU comes out in this game, and I think parts of the performance are encouraging. I think you can look at the defense and say that was good. KU special teams, pretty solid. KU's run game was okay. Just the passing game, right? You know, the really important part of football was not very good. And I think that's where we have to start. I also might get lost here, so that could be an apt sign or meta. Oh, yes, a door, cool. So the offense and passing. That's probably the worst I've seen Jalon Daniels play in as long as he's been at Kansas. And the interception numbers say as much. 3 interceptions is a career high for him. And he did not look sharp. I will give him credit for showing up post-game and answering questions and talking about it. He didn't have to do that, right? You've seen other quarterbacks who've had bad games not show up. Good for him to do that. But also, I think he said it best, right? He had to be better, and he wasn't. And I think you can look at a few things offensively. KU tried to be more creative, more motions. Jalon Daniels was involved in the running game offensively, which was good to see. That is going to be a part of this offense in the future. But at the same time, you can look at the offensive play calling, and it left a little bit to be desired. If you've listened to the podcast, you've listened to the YouTube shows, I told you all this was going to happen. There's going to be screens on 3rd and long. They're going to drive you nuts. And that's what we saw. It's just a part of the offense, and that's what Jeff Grimes has done at pass stops. He relies on the screen game to get players the ball in space. Those did not work today. No better showcased than Jared Casey getting 2 upfield and not being able to cut off the cornerback, who then goes and intercepts Jalon Daniels' pass and for a touchdown. You know, you can call a good play, and if it's executed, you know, it can get you a first down. If it's not executed, screen passes can be pick sixes. And that's what that one was. So I think this isn't a one person is to blame. That's certainly not the case, right? There are 11 men on the field. There's one guy calling plays. 12 people involved. You know, multiple things go wrong on a given play for something like that to happen. So I don't think this is a type of game or situation where you blame one person. You say the collective was not good enough. The quarterback wasn't good enough. Some of the skill position players weren't good enough. Quentin Skinner on an end around, muffing the ball. Yeah, Jalon maybe threw it a little hard, but come on. Those are things that go wrong in a game like this, and that's what leads you to not play at your best. Now, the run game, that was positive. Devin Neal over 100 yards. Every time he touched the ball, he looked like he was going to either make someone miss or run through somebody. And so I thought he looked the part. And, you know, in the second half, you see things and, you know, you try and get the option game going, and all of a sudden things maybe aren't read the right way, or happens. But I think for KU offensively, you just look at the passing game. This is a 6-point game, right? Ooh, I'm not going to get hit by a car here. That'd be bad for business. You know, in the end, what? 6-point game? What changes this game? Your quarterback throwing a pick 6 at the end of the first half. It's that simple, you know. And like I explained, what happened on that play, you know, it's just one of these situations where a lot of things go wrong and it costs you in a game. KU's going to play in a lot of one-score games this year. I don't know if people were thinking that this is going to be a big old blowout, right? On the road, physical team, low possessions. Hard to score a lot of points, especially if your offense is not executing at a high level. So that's the offense. I think that's where you look and say, where was this game lost? I think it's offensively. The bright spot is, my God, the defense. What was that? They're flying around, making plays along the line of scrimmage. And this, if you know, I'm out in the field pregame, you watch the guys warm up, like that Illinois offensive line is big and physical. And the amount of times that Tommy Dunn, Caleb Taylor, any one of those D tackles or one of the defensive ends. Dylan Woodkey had a great game. I thought he really showed up. The amount of times that those guys made plays, really encouraging, because I wondered how this defensive front would look. You lose Gage Keys, you lose Devin Phillips, you lose Austin Booker, and all of a sudden, the defensive line looks good. Cornell Wheeler looked awesome. Marvin Grant, I thought for the first half, looked like the best player on the field. And that's super encouraging that the front seven, the area you probably had the most questions about in this type of game, looks good. The secondary, if you're going to play the way KU plays, right, and sometimes it's going to be zone, sometimes you're going to play man, the corners played good defense on some of those plays, and my God, I've never seen a one-handed catch like that. You got, Franklin had basically stiff-armed Demarius McGee and still somehow made a one-handed catch. You got to tip your hat on that. I don't know what, there's really not too much else that can be done. So, there's a couple of those plays offensively that ended up being backbreakers. So, it is what it is, right? Sometimes you got to tip your cap to the other team. And so, overall, at the end of the game, right, when KU needs to stop, the defense is a little gassed because KU's offense had gone 3 and out, or what would have been an interception, 3 and out before the final drive. And ran out of gas, right? The time of possession didn't look that bad, but then you kind of look at it late in the game and it's different. So, yeah, not great, right? Illinois is going to be a team that's going to compete for a bowl game. It's not a team that's going to be competing for a Big 12 or Big 10 title. So I think you got to give credit to them. They came out, they played with great intensity. Luke Altmaier looked pretty good, but this is a game for KU where you just can circle a couple plays and say if those plays go differently, maybe you win the game. And that is the thing, right? It's going to come down to moments this year, right? Like I said, KU's going to play in a lot of one-score games this year. You know what you can't have happen? Your quarterback turned the ball over 3 times on balls that, early last year, 2 years ago, I think you had pretty good confidence in Jalen throwing the right distance there to where, Luke Graham and Quentin Skinner can make plays on it. This time he didn't. For KU now, there are encouraging parts, right? Like I said, the defensive front seven looked good. The offensive line I thought looked really good. Devin Neal looked good. It's going to come down to, can KU not make mistakes, not have turnovers, because you're not going to win in the Big 12 if you turn the ball over 3 times. It's that simple. So you look at the big picture now for KU. You look at next week against UNLV. That's a high-tempo offense. That's a different challenge for KU. You look at West Virginia on the road. It's another challenge. And for KU, if you want to look, I've already seen this on social media, talking about college football playoff. The Big 12 is a one-bid league. I'd be shocked if the Big 12 gets 2 teams in the college football playoff. They have already been very adamant that's going to be the best teams. And you know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. We're going to see the Big 10 and the SEC get multiple at-large bids, because that's what's going to happen. And so for KU, it's all about, can you win your conference? And the good part for KU is that's still in front of them. So they have to shake this off, get better, offensively figure things out to where you can have a rhythm, and go from there, because this is a team that is still talented and it's still got all of its goals in front of itself. And so it's a non-conference game. We learned a lot about KU tonight. I think we learned that the defense looks pretty good. The offense looks a little disjointed, and so they've got to figure this out. So those are my thoughts. Obviously, stay tuned to Fog.net. Plenty of coverage already up. About to go home and write a whole lot about this one. I thought Lance Leipold's press conference was really interesting. Jalen Daniels talked, Devin Neal talked, Cornell Wheeler talked. So make sure you're checking all that on the YouTube channel, checking out Fog.net for all sorts of our post-game coverage and everything else I have to say, because this doesn't even touch the iceberg. I've still got to go watch some plays back that I recorded. So yeah, thanks for checking the video. We'll talk to y'all later.